Alright, so the title of this video might be like a little bit misleading, but you know, I gotta get clicked somehow, right? Kidding. On a more serious note, we're gonna be talking about like different focal lengths and essentially what is the quote-unquote the best focal length, and you know, the best focal lengths for different situations, you know, and you know, like more of like, damn, I can't fucking speak today. Okay, so I think that pretty obviously that the very best focal length that you can have is the one or the ones that you have on you right now, currently in whatever situation that you're in, because so often so many people will get caught up in saying like, oh, I don't have this focal length, so I can't take so-and-so shot, or I don't have this focal length, so I can't take this like cool shot that I want, or I can't have this compression, or blah, blah, blah. And honestly, what that's doing is it's stopping you from being as creative as you can possibly be, right? A lot of the greatest, you know, works of art were created when people had like restrictions. When people had restrictions put on them, and so you're only wasting your time by complaining about you not having this certain focal length. You know, the focal length is like this. The lens isn't just gonna appear out of nowhere and fall into your hands. Right? You have to make the best of what you got. So instead of complaining about that, I'd say the very best things to do is make do with what you have, right? And I can say that if you're able to adapt and overcome like your lack of access to equipment, then it makes you so much better as a photographer. Obviously, there's like a base of like, you know, like a certain level where you need to have like something to be able to, you know, be competitive. But at the same time, there's like, at a certain point, it becomes like, it's less of a matter of equipment and more of a matter of skill. And so I think that plays a lot into how good your photos turn out, how good of a photographer you are, and how adaptable you can be. And so, yeah. That's what I think the very best. I'm sorry, it's like freezing out here. I don't know why I'm shooting a video. So yeah, like no matter what situation you're in, do the very best to try and get unique, creative, and innovative shots simply using the lens that you have on you currently, right? There's a photographer, James Popsis, who uploads incredible videos on YouTube. He's an amazing photographer. And he himself has talked about, you know, switching from, you know, having all this gear to only having like one or two lenses and a single camera, no matter where he's going, right? And I think that's so important because he's someone that I look up to personally. And I'll link his videos or his page down below. But his photography is just so eye-catching and just so like incredible. And some of the photos that he takes are on cameras that people wouldn't even think is the cameras that he took to take this photo. Like, he's taken great, incredible photos on a Micro Four Thirds camera, and people are like, what the hell? And that's something that I can like relate to so deeply, that like, you know, you can create great content, great images out of a camera that is like quote unquote budget, right? Art isn't about the tools that you have at your disposal. It's about your creativity. You know, people make art out of trash and it'll be in a museum. So it's really up to what you have and what you can do with it. It is up to what you have. It's up to what you have and what you can do with it. It's not about what you could do with what you don't have, if that makes sense. So yeah. So like, if you don't believe me, I am the #1 testament to this. I started off with a Micro Four Thirds single camera. I was shooting basketball at 35 millimeters. And I shot basketball. Like currently with my current setup, I shot basketball at 30 millimeters. I shot basketball at 16 millimeters. The lens that I'm shooting on right now, I shot basketball on it. And I'd say those are some pretty decent shots. People like the wide angle. So it's really about creativity and what you put your mind to. Okay, so first we're gonna dive into street photography, not because it's what I'm best at, but it is because it's what I'm most passionate about. And so when I first started street photography, I only had one lens. It was 35 millimeters. And to me, that's honestly the best focal length for this kind of photography. It's punched in enough where it doesn't look like a phone camera, but it also it's like wide enough where if you want to capture like a full like city block, like a corner, then it's definitely wide enough for those kind of shots. And I'd say it's the most versatile focal length as well. There's also, you know, if you want to go a bit more punched in, there's also 45, like from 40 to 50. I'd say from 40 to 50 and like as well as 35, that range is like generally going to be the very best for street photography and things like that. There are quite a few photographers that use 20 and like 24, but to me those are just like super wide, and I just like don't like that wide look for street photography. That's just a personal preference. But you know, don't let me stop you, because again, you know, it's all about creativity and your own like expression and how you capture a moment, right? If you want to go like 70 millimeters or anything more than that, I wouldn't recommend it, just because it's a lot harder to find a good composition. But you know, like I said, if you want that like really nice compression, if you just want like a different look in terms of street photography, you want to be like unique and original, absolutely go for it. I'm not stopping you. But for me, 35 millimeters is just a perfect sweet spot. And I also think it's the closest focal length visually to the human eye, in my opinion. Some people say 40, other people say 50, some people say 24. But to me, 35 millimeters is like, that's what you like see like real life. Moving on to sports, I mainly do basketball. I've done like one game for soccer, but for basketball, which is what I mainly do, it really depends on where you are in the court or in the arena. Sometimes I'm courtside, and for that you can use anything from 16 millimeters, which is what I have right now, all the way up to, I would say, 50. If you're courtside, 50 is as punched in as you want to be, because otherwise it's going to be hard to follow the ball. And then if you do want like an even more punched in, you can always just crop in, you know, depending on how good your camera sensor is. It doesn't even really matter that much. People aren't going to notice if you post on socials. So up to 50 millimeters, I'd say that's the sweet spot if you're courtside. If you're in the bleachers, or if you're somewhere like farther away, if you're on the other side of the court, 70 to 200, that's gonna get you like those really nice clean shots. But any 70 to 200 will suffice. If you have like a Tamron 18 to 105, 150, that's also good too. Just anything that has the triple digit option is great. So that's what I would recommend for sports specifically. Another reason that I think a super wide focal length is really useful for courtside is the autofocus, for some reason, is really, really reactive. And that works out perfectly, because then it just captures exactly what you need it to do. Even if it's at a 1.4 aperture and depth of field is like crazy, it's still, like, for me personally, with the Sigma 16 millimeter, it captures like perfectly everything in the scene. And so that's definitely a plus. And also, since courts tend to be like really terribly lit, having that 1.4 is perfect, because you'll be able to use that like 1 to 500 shutter speed, or to whatever your camera goes. And so that's really nice. So yeah. Okay, portraits are something I've done very few and far between. But for me, again, I'd say 35 to 50 is really the sweet spot. I'd say for almost every situation you're going to possibly find yourself in, 35 to 50 is always going to be the sweet spot. People discount 35 sometimes as a portrait focal length, but in my opinion, it just looks great, especially if you have a lens with a low aperture. That's so great. But yeah, as I was saying, 35, I just like the way that it looks. You know, it looks like the human eye, and if you have it at a low aperture, then, you know, that depth of field is going to be immaculate. But again, if you want a more punched in look, 50 is a really good option. A lot of portrait photographers use it. There's a lot of people who lean towards 85 as well. I never gotten the chance to use 85 for portrait session, like a 85 prime. I've also never used like a zoom that goes to 85 for a session. But you'll also be like farther away from the person if you want like their whole body with the 85. But you know, if you want that compression, go for it. That's all you. Personally, I haven't used it, so I couldn't really speak on it. But yeah, you know, it's really all about creativity. And if you're shooting in sunlight, you're gonna have your lens at probably like a 5.6 aperture or 8 aperture anyway. So you might not have that crazy depth of field unless you have like a filter. But yeah, for me, 35 to 50, that's the sweet spot. Once again, you know, I'll show a couple of pics that's really where that's my preference. All right, thank you so much for watching. Definitely leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that. If there's anything you want to see in like future videos or anything that I didn't cover in the previous ones, I only have 3 videos, but like please like leave a comment. I read all your comments because there's only like 5 of them. But yeah, I'll definitely make videos concerning those because I'm also kind of terrible at making video ideas. But yeah, I wanted to make this channel like a sort of community, a lot of engagement. And so yeah, thank you guys for watching. See you on the next one. Peace.